You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hi, I'm Joe Heath.
I'm Toni Heath.
And this is the Watch-A-Thon of Rassilon.
A joke goes here, supposedly. I've never come up with one a single time.
Good job.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Today, we're going to be talking about the third serial of the 18th season of Doctor Who, Full Circle, which consists of 4 episodes that aired from October 25th, 1980 to November 15th, 1980.
True facts!
I'm about to mention who sponsored this episode, but I'm going to wait till after we introduce our guest today, because we have some interesting things to say about the person who sponsored this episode, and he might want to chime in.
All
right, so joining us today is returning guest, his first solo episode.
Ooh, fancy.
I'm doing it on my own.
Adam Clegg, welcome back!
Thank you. Good to be here. It's about to talk about one of my favourite Tom Baker serials, so that's a good thing.
You are the co-host of Harry Sullivan is an Imbecile. It seems like you guys are on a bit of a hiatus, and I miss you guys.
We are, but we'll be back at some point, and we're about to release a charity single any moment, demanding that we come back. So, you know, really good. It's got some good synths going, and get some really D-list celebrities to sing on it. So it's going well.
I wasn't invited to sing on it. I guess I'm not a D-list celebrity. I'm A-list, right?
Yeah, exactly. We couldn't sully our brand by inviting people who are well known. You know, that would be pointless. Can I also plug my new podcast as well?
No, can't do it.
Too late. So yeah, doing Harry Sullivan, also doing The Real McCoy, which is me and Eric Stadnick of the Doctor Who's Writers' Room, where we're basically looking at one of my absolute obsessions in Doctor Who, the Sylvester McCoy era, doing a deep dive on that. We've just about finished season 24, so about to release a roundtable discussion of that, which could be subtitled "What the Hell Just Happened?" And yeah, so no, it's things are going very well at the moment. Like I said, very excited to be talking about this serial and the appearance of obviously one of the greatest companions ever, Adric.
All right, awesome,
Yay!
Before we dive into this episode, I want to say that this serial was sponsored by Steve Conway, who purchased the entire E-Space trilogy on DVD for us. When I asked him if I should, mention anything, like a website or anything, he said, if you want, you can mention to people that I can be found on 8radio.com, where I present the very long-running series A to Z of Great Tracks, which just reached its 300th episode. Or that I was once a genuine sea pirate, which is at least halfway towards being a space pirate.
Possibly better than being a space pirate. Sea pirate. Does he only have one leg?
I think he has both.
Oh.
I asked him to clarify this. He linked to like a couple of news articles about himself, and he wrote a book. He was on Radio Caroline, which was a pirate radio station. So he lived out on a boat and was like a DJ and stuff. I was like, that's really cool.
That is very cool.
Apparently they used the Radio Caroline, they used some of the equipment from that when they made that Richard Curtis movie, which I'm blanking on the title of.
The Boat That Rocks?
Yes. I believe it was called Pirate Radio when it was released in the US. But yeah. And I asked him how close it was, and he said, it's very Hollywoodized in some ways. We never had 100 naked fans on the ship, and the government wouldn't have deliberately tried to kill us. And yet there are lots and lots of little moments in the film that make me almost weep with nostalgia. And I also was reading in another article of him, he went back there, like went and got a different job or whatever, and then he went back there after a while to, I don't know, to visit or to do another spot or something, and they got caught in the middle of like a big storm, and the ship went down, and like he barely got rescued by like a helicopter. They were all like afraid they were going to die. And I'm like, you have lived an interesting life.
All this, and he's a fan of the E-Space trilogy, so obviously a man of excellent taste.
Yeah. Thanks for sponsoring this, Steve Conway. And check out 8radio.com, where he is currently doing the radio thing. And now let's do it. Let's talk about Full Circle.
Sure.
Episode 1, which I've called Melon Stealing Whores.
Okay, but that was my joke when we were watching it.
Yeah.
I watched this today, and I did think the episode 1, it's kind of the planet of the pajama people.
I mean, that would be my number one first place to visit. The planet of just sleeping in until 1 o'clock. Let's go.
But before we get to the pajama planet, we start off in the TARDIS, where they just proceed to drop so many like continuity references, which I don't think I've ever seen the show do before quite so heavily.
No, well, because this is written by Andrew Smith, who was, I want to say 18 at the time. So literally it's old as the program was, and is like probably like the first real Doctor Who fan to actually write for the show. And it absolutely shows in those scenes. It's like, hey, kids, remember the key to time?
I think he was actually 17.
Oh, God.
Adric was 18 and he was 17. And they apparently everyone was like talking about like, kids are taking over the show sort of thing. But yeah, they mention Romana. I mean, not Romana. Romana's in this. They mention Leela. They mention Leela. They mention K9 Mark 1 even. And that guy whose name I forget, that Leela was like, yeah, I guess I like this dude.
The guy she pointed at and said, yeah, all right, he'll do.
And they also mentioned the Earthling that they dropped off at the end of the last serial, the Cactus Businessman.
And there's an oblique reference to the War Games as well.
Oh, yeah, there is, isn't there?
Because Romana, I keep getting Leela and Romana's names mixed up for some reason. I don't know why. I need to wake up. Yeah, because Romana is very sad because she doesn't want to go back to Gallifrey because she's afraid that like she won't be able to continue on with the Doctor because their mission is done.
Time Lords aren't really supposed to just go around traveling.
And we get to see her room.
Oh, I was so excited. I love seeing other rooms of the TARDIS. I love seeing people's bedrooms. I don't know why. I just do. And Romana's looks nice. I could hang there.
Thus ending any fan ships of the Doctor and Romana, I'm guessing. Look, it's definitely a single bed on her own. Get your mind out the gutter.
You don't need a huge bed.
You do.
Tom Baker's a pretty big guy. He's at least, 7'5" or something?
I'd shared a twin bed with you for entirely too long. You definitely need a double bed.
Yeah, at the very least. I don't feel like we've seen other rooms in the TARDIS for a very long time now, so I'm always excited to see more bits of it.
It's definitely the first time we see a companion's bedroom. I mean, I guess in the Hartnell era we did see Ian and Barbara lying on those chased sofa things and having a snooze, but that wasn't really a bedroom as such.
I hope not. I wouldn't put it past the first Doctor to be like, this is human bed. Okay, bye.
This thing that looks like a giant shoe.
Dear boy, you sleep there. I'm going to go to my luxury room over here that doesn't exist.
He's like basically just got pets for the first time and is like laying newspaper down. He's like, okay. You sleep on that. Bye.
I like the idea of companions as pets.
I mean, they are.
K9, quite literally. This is not a good serial for K9. I'm sorry.
It's not. It's very upsetting.
Everyone hated K9, apparently. The writer hated K9.
Why? He's just a good little dog.
I don't think it's great. This isn't a great year for K9 in general. You know, he just gets blown up and beaten up a lot. I mean, Tom Baker was legendary in his hatred for him. He liked John Leeson, but just wasn't that keen on K9 himself. But he didn't like anyone he worked with after Sarah Jane Smith left. Except for, I guess, Lala Ward, he did marry her.
I guess I could understand hating the prop, for sure. It seems like it didn't work as much as it ought to have.
I think it's also the trouble when one of your companions is essentially a supercomputer that could potentially solve everything in 10 minutes. You just got to think of reasons to keep them out of the way.
It's just like a sonic screwdriver with a personality.
I'm imagining now a sonic screwdriver with a personality, but like Beacon from the Adventure Zone. It's a sonic screwdriver, but it's just sarcastic and annoying. And that's why you don't use it. It's great and amazing, but it gives you lit.
Someone needs to write that now.
I mean, it did. It's the Adventure Zone.
Yeah,
it's a sword named Beacon, and it's great.
Yeah, it talks to the champion who wields it, and they don't get along. But something weird happens to the TARDIS. Things go all wibbly wobbly. And they wind up in a slightly green universe. Yeah,
it took me literally years to realise that the scanner shots of E-Space are actually supposed to be tinted slightly green. I only realised that in about the last 6 months. I read it, someone was like, oh, okay, is it? All right.
I just thought it was kind of a wonky effect.
Yeah, literally what I've been presuming for about 20 years until recently. It's like, oh, okay.
Oh, wait, that was on purpose?
Also, that effect, as they go through E-Space, if you look back at Top of the Pops episodes about the same time, gets used a lot on Top of the Pops for, like, any band that's being a bit out there. Like, ooh, spacey effect.
But they turn on the scanner and it shows Gallifrey. But when they exit the TARDIS, it's not Gallifrey. It's a forested area next to a lake where everyone is frolicking and collecting melons and swimming.
2 naked dudes swimming in that pond together.
I don't think they're quite naked, but their outfits are very clingy.
I mean, I haven't seen the Blu-ray version, but I don't. It doesn't look, at least on DVD, like they're wearing clothes. You know, they're swimming together, and for a minute you think this is going to be a very different sort of story. But it's not. They put on their pajamas eventually, but they look naked. I'm sure you see possibly the first shot in Doctor Who of a butt. I'm reasonably certain.
Especially there's a later scene where they're getting them out of the water. The material they're wearing is very thin.
Yes.
And clingy and butts.
And you definitely see a butt.
You see multiple butts. You see at least 2 butts, which is more butts than I'm used to seeing on Doctor Who.
It's a family show, for God's sake.
Except for that one shot in The Mind Robber.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
But there's this gang that are hiding out. They're like a group of children. They call themselves the Outlers. They are trying to steal some of the river fruit, which they just look like...
They're just watermelons.
They're watermelons. They're weird-looking watermelons. And they get caught and chased away. I don't know if they got any. I don't think they got any.
They didn't. They're a very bad gang.
I think you have to ask yourself, are the Outliers the most incompetent children's gang that we see on Doctor Who? Because they're just useless. They never do anything right.
They were supposed to originally, because I watched the commentary and everything. Apparently, the 4th episode, they were supposed to have a lot more to do, and then things got rewritten a lot. They were actually supposed to fly the spaceship that's in this serial, and they had to get it. The other people had to get it back from the Outlers and everything.
Okay.
But they said, nah, don't do that. But that's where the title for this episode comes from. I don't know if Melon Stealing Whores is a reference to a porn intro.
Yeah.
That sort of went viral, I guess, and it was called Lemon Stealing Whores.
I'm not familiar with that. I've learned something new today. So there we go.
Yeah.
Ordinarily, I would not throw that word around, but it's a pretty funny video.
Yeah, it's just a woman who is stealing lemons and putting them in her lingerie, I guess. And then these people are just talking about how much they love their lemons.
How great their lemons are,
and
how much they've worked to have them, and they love just looking at their lemon tree and appreciating their lemons.
And it would be a shame if someone was to steal their lemons, and then they catch someone stealing their lemons, and they get very upset.
And then they all have sex because it's a porno.
Sounds amazing. When's the Watch-A-Thon of Rassilon on that one?
Just now.
We just did it. Just now.
Patreon special.
Final thoughts. It's alright. It's funny. Of all the porn we've reviewed on this show, it's the best one I've seen.
I mean, I've not ever actually seen anything past the intro.
Right. Me either.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
I mean, I watched it on YouTube, so you can't have any funny business.
On YouTube?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true.
You can't have nudity. This episode of Doctor Who would have been banned on YouTube because of the butts.
The algorithm would not have liked the butts.
Tumblr would just say, no way.
Tumblr frequently does. Our GIFs gets flagged all the time from Doctor Who.
Yeah, those helmets from the Leisure Hive that are very phallic looking.
Veer voids are definitely a no.
The creature from the pit definitely got blocked. But there are some dudes that are studying the melons, and they open them up, and they've got insect eggs in them, and they're very worried that it's a sign of mistfall, which this seems very Dragon Riders of Pern.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, because it's like a cyclical sort of thing, and these spiders show up, right? Is that how Pern worked? It's been a while since I read it.
Pern was...
They came on threads, right?
Yeah, I think it was...
I think it was called Threadfall or something.
Was from the sun, right? So it was just stuff from the sun of the planet falling onto the planet. I think I read them in grade school.
I read the first one, and then I tried to read the second one. It was so dense I couldn't get through it.
Yeah, I read them in grade school, and I tried to pick them up again in high school, and was just
I've gotten way more stupid.
Yeah, I've dumbed down since when I read the first couple of them. Or I think it just didn't used to bother me so much to when I would hit something I didn't quite understand, I'd be like, oh well, that happens in life sometimes, and just keep reading.
I just remember there was time-traveling dragons, that's all I remember.
Yeah, they were cool. They could, space jump, and everyone knew that.
But then they found out that they could also time jump.
Yeah, because they go in between. They're not anywhere.
Right. They're in E-space.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Way to bring it back around.
Yeah. Did you like my transition there?
It was great.
We go to the cave. We haven't had a cave in a good long while. I love them caves.
Good old-fashioned cave.
It's where the Outlers hang out, and we meet somebody who I feel like is not going to be that important. He's just the brother of the leader of the gang. He's just like this math genius, apparently. And he just wants to join the gang. I don't think he's going to be very important.
No.
I doubt he'll be in the next story.
His name is, was it Eric? Is that it?
Adrian? Something like that.
Alvin.
Oh, I wish it was Alvin.
Alvin?
I think it's Adric.
All right, sure. Man, because we got the DVD and I watched all the special features, and I've read about this one. Apparently, the guy who played Adric did not have a good time making this serial. He's on the commentary, and he was like, this is the one commentary that I was like, I almost said no to, just because I had such a bad experience on this one. And it wasn't his first one either. They filmed him slightly out of order. But
why was it so bad?
I think it was probably at the height of Tom Baker being kind of a dick.
I mean, while watching the Space Trilogy, you can play the game of how much does Lala Ward hate Matthew Waterhouse at this stage while watching it. It's pretty bad here. I mean, I think it's at its worst in Warrior's Gate, where she just obviously can't stand to even to be on screen with him. So maybe that probably didn't help either.
Damn.
Yeah. Well, I think both Tom Baker and Lala Ward were not having a good time either. Everything was changing, and they didn't want a new companion on, and Tom Baker had to wear question marks on his lapel, and he didn't like it.
I don't know why you would be grumpy about that. The question marks are great.
So I think it was just like, there was just bad mojo all around. And like, it's really funny listening to the commentary, because it's the guy who played Adric and the guy who wrote the episode and the script editor, I think, for this season. The writer's like, I was 17 years old, and it was like, you guys took a chance on me, and it was great, and I had a lot of fun, and like, it was a really positive experience, and blah blah blah. And then they go, but sorry it wasn't for you. And Adric would be like, yeah, it was fucking awful.
Damn.
I had a bad time, because apparently the director was also a little sort of, he didn't really know how to direct children. They didn't get along very well. I don't know. It just seems fraught. Yeah, it was awkward.
Yeah, well, I mean, he is also stuck with the worst haircut in Doctor Who history for his entire run on the show.
That's a wig, right?
I think it's his hair. There's like one shot, because he'd had one acting job on screen before, like a couple of episodes of some school drama. I can't remember what it is, but it's easy enough to look up. And it's not quite that cut, but it's very similar, quite black and thick. Yeah, I don't think it's a wig.
Wow, that is tragic.
It's like the kind of haircut you got in the 80s if your mum cut your hair.
Yeah, it's got like the bowl cut thing going on almost.
Though his hair kind of matches his brother's eyebrows, so maybe that's deliberate. I don't know.
Good casting.
He apparently he didn't act after this for like a while, I don't think, and he eventually released like a biography that sort of spilled some tea on the whole situation.
Is that the biography where he speaks about himself in the third person?
Yes.
Yes, I haven't read it. I kind of want to though.
Yeah, I've heard mixed reviews. Like, I've heard people say there's a lot of interesting insights. It's weirdly edited, and also it's in third person, which is bizarre. And the guy who wrote this, I don't think he submitted a few more stories, but he didn't write anything else for the show. And then he became a policeman.
It really surprises me they never got him back. It really does, because this is in general, this is a really good type script, and he's young, he's obviously got a lot of talent, and but they never get him back. And I just surprised. It really genuinely is one of, I think, the big surprises of this time, that Andrew Smith only ever writes this. And yeah, I mean, he's written some Big Finish since, but Eric Sayward, who's always saying how desperate he was for writers, never thinks, I've got this young lad who's keen, enthusiastic, and written something good, I'll get him back. But no, never happens.
Oh, that's sad. He also clarified something. Apparently, this whole idea of Adric being a math genius is like a defining characteristic of him, and he was like, I didn't really write it that way. I just sort of wrote it as he's smart at math on this planet. Like, he's just like bragging about getting good grades. He's not like a genius.
Yeah, he's just good at his times tables. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Imagine if you got straight A's and you got a special patch to wear, and you did.
But apparently later he's just like, what's the square root of, a very high number? And he just says it immediately. But like, this was just like, no, he's just a little smart. He's not like a genius.
I think for a reoccurring character, especially on like Doctor Who, having them be a math genius is probably a little bit more interesting than like, I got a pretty good score on my SATs. Okay, great.
Yeah, I guess there's more dramatic potential than like going, I'm a solid B student. You know, I'm good, but I'm all right. I'm all right. Here's my badge for average.
But he's got this badge, which is a little star, and he wants a different one though, because he wants this belt. You have to like earn your way into the gang. Once you get into the gang, you get this belt. And they're like, you have to steal some fruit for us to earn it, which I'm going to say he doesn't do, but it comes back later and it's dramatic and sad. Then he swims to get to the melons. Like he's going at a different path than the rest of them did.
But he does it with his clothes on.
He does it with his clothes on, and he does his swimming so bizarrely. He goes, whoop. He like dips his head in and out, like really weird. And it looks like he's almost drowning. And like on the commentary, he's like, I don't know what I'm doing. But everybody is also gets distracted because the water starts boiling and acting all weird. And that's when the two swimmers come out and we see their butts. So if you're looking to watch this just to see the butts, this is the scene you need to go to.
Some solid butt content.
And he uses this distraction to steal the river fruit, but is pretty much immediately caught. So he is just as useless as the rest of the gang. And he gets chased by one of these guys who were studying the melons. His name is Drath. He is what they call a decider. They run through the woods. Adric falls down for no reason. I think he trips. And then, I feel like this scene is slightly weirdly choreographed. Because, like, people just fall down. And I'm like, did they die? And then they're not. Because they go, ugh. And then they go back to it later and they're fighting again.
It's like, oh, no, they died.
It's worth saying that, people always say, that Doctor Who could be sexist because the female companions should trip over and lie uselessly. But, it's equal opportunities. Adric does it. He just seems to trip over and then go, oh, I'm slightly unconscious. But yeah, it is so odd, the whole thing. Everyone just keeps falling over left, right, and centre until somebody dies, which I guess is a choice.
Drath does like a full-on flip at one point too, and then like lands in this swamp, in this water, and gets drugged down into it. He dies in the swamps of sadness like Artax.
But not before he gets to shout out the name of the story, which is obviously very important.
He says, Doctor Who! And then drowns.
It's the name of the show, not the character.
It's more of a question, really.
No, but I mean, it's very noble of him to make sure his last words are, tying into the plot and providing a later clue and not something along the lines of, you Lego'd head little bastard, as he slowly sinks to his death.
Your math doesn't help you now.
You weren't that good.
I trained you wrong on purpose. Also, everyone is getting on to this Starliner because they feel like the Mistfall's about to happen and they're going to hide out in there.
Mistfall's very dangerous.
And the Starliner looks really cool. It's like just a bunch of like purple and blue crystals all smashed together.
It's completely aesthetically different than anything else in the landscape that we've seen so far. And every shot of it I just love.
It's so colorful. It makes me feel like it's like the Fortress of Solitude if Superman had more style.
If Superman had an aesthetic blog.
But Adric runs away from the guy he just watched die, bumps into the TARDIS, runs into the TARDIS, and passes out. Also, I think he hurt his knee.
Yes, yeah.
But heals real fast.
Which is a clue to the resolution of this whole thing.
Does that stick around? Does he always heal real fast?
I think it gets mentioned occasionally, but yeah, no, it definitely gets mentioned. I can't think, maybe in the Visitation or there's some reference to it, but it's never really explored as such. Like he never loses an arm and it regrows or anything, like the lizard in Spider-Man.
I know the eventual fate of him. Maybe he'll come back.
Come back? How?
Because he heals real fast.
Oh no!
It's like Wolverine. It's actually, yeah, he's essentially the companion equivalent of Wolverine. He's even got silly hair. I mean, it's...
Apparently the whole healing fast thing is just a clue to the eventual, like, revelations about how evolution works on this planet. Is that they evolve really fast. So that they heal really fast. That's what they said in the commentary.
I'm not sure how good the science on that one is, but it's fine.
He was 17. It's fine.
I honestly didn't realize it was supposed to be a clue until afterwards. Because I kept going, I wonder when that's going to pay off. And then, I guess it did. And I was just too dumb to make the connection.
Well, it's not like the science super pans out, so you're fine.
So the Doctor and Romana take him to Romana's bedroom. Romanda. It's a great hotel. But they tend to his knee, and then he sort of fills them in on what's been going on while acting kind of poorly in this scene. He's very melodramatic. And apparently he hated it. And the director was like, that was the best one. And he's like, every time I watch it since, I'm like, this is the only scene I hate that I do in this serial. He's like, I wanted to do it again. And the director was like, no, it was perfect. So that was part of his like upset over making this serial.
Is it Peter Grimwade who directs this one?
Yes. What he said is that he was like great visually, but he was like sometimes bad at like handling the actors. And actually, that is something I really like about this serial. Is there's a lot of great shots in this.
It does look good. It does look really good,
especially when like we're inside the Starliner and there's like groups of people talking to the deciders, and they're up on that stand that they're on or whatever. They're higher up than everybody else, and like there's a lot of crane shots in there, and those all look really, really cool.
One of JNT's great strengths was he was very good with the money of the series, and he knew how to, most of the time, and he knew how to spend it to make things look a bit better. And I think it does definitely show in season 18. It feels a bit, you can see that the money is not increased; it's being used a bit more wisely.
So the doors of the Starliner close and seal up, and like everybody's in, except everybody's not in. There's this one guy. His name's Logan, but his name's spelled Login, and his daughter is still out there. We later find out that she's one of the Outlers, but he is temporarily sad that his daughter didn't make it. He kind of quickly turns on that and is like, oh, well, she was a troublemaker.
Well, he gets elected into a position of power, so...
I think he's submerging his grief with a sense of duty, maybe. Maybe he just didn't like her that much. I mean, she doesn't come across as being particularly great on screen, so, you know.
But because Drath has died, they need a new decider, and they're thinking Login. I'm just going to call him Login.
Okay.
Apparently he's a famous actor, and I don't know who he is.
Yeah, George Baker. Probably. I don't know if he'd be known in the States for much, but did I Claudius?
Oh, I know I Claudius. We air I Claudius on Retro. I did the promo for it.
Oh.
But yeah, and he did the Inspector Wexford mysteries over here as well, and he's well known over here.
He looks like someone who looks familiar. The Doctor and Romana figure out that they're not in real space anymore. They're somewhere else because of negative coordinates. They're not in the real universe anymore.
Negative coordinates aren't a real thing, so they must be somewhere that's not real.
There's some science stuff going on.
Because the TARDIS is always so accurate that obviously if it's in negative coordinates, it must be there in negative coordinates, not that something's gone wrong with the TARDIS.
So the Doctor and K9 go out to examine the water because they've been told that it's gone all bubbly and weird. And then K9's like, water's fine, there's nothing wrong with it. Then that's also when Adric's going to go back to the Outlers. He gets a homing device for the TARDIS from Romana so he can make his way back. And his knee is healed. What could that mean?
I thought the scene was weird, but it makes sense now knowing that...
she didn't like him?
Yes. I was like, why is she being so rude to this kid? like that's a weird choice, but okay. She just seems like I'm too busy for this.
And then the Doctor and K9 see some swamp creatures rise up from the swamp.
That makes sense. That tracks.
They are the Marshmen.
They come during Mistfall.
And they do look good. They are good-looking monsters in the sense of not being aesthetically handsome, but, you know, good-looking monsters.
Very slimy.
They got like a real creature from the Black Lagoon type vibe.
And they join that long list of Doctor Who monsters emerging from the sea, you know, along with the Sea Devils, the Hemivores, and, of course, the Dalek at the end of the Dalek Invasion of Earth Part 1.
That is the end of episode 1. We are now into episode 2, which I have called Marshmelons. I don't know.
Just a melon theme, kind of. Are they all gonna be melons?
Don't spoil the surprise.
No. I don't want you to get your hopes up. There's more great melon jokes, because there's not.
I'm still waiting for one.
Oh, sick burn.
Yeah.
Anyway. So Adric goes back to the Outlers and tells them everything, and then is very surprised when they're like, well, let's go to the TARDIS. And he's like, oh, but we can't. And they're like, but he's like, I don't know where it is. And you've got this homing device. And he's like, why did I tell you about that? He attempts to dissuade them, but he's very bad at it.
Yeah, it's so weird. He's like, yeah, I don't want to save you all by bringing you back to the TARDIS. It's he's like he almost get the impression he'd be quite happy to just leave them there.
Yeah, I don't know why he's so against that, except that I guess he knows they're going to be dicks about it, which they are.
I guess that's it.
Because they show up at the TARDIS and they're like, we're taking it over. And Romana's like, okay, whatever.
one of them like grabs a knife and sticks it to Romana's throat, and then like Adric saves her. Romana gets the knife, goes towards the guy who had the knife on her in the first place, turns around and hands it back to him, and like, don't try that again.
You have to question the effectiveness of your child gang if Adric is capable of de-arming one of your members.
He couldn't even steal a river melon.
But yeah, Romana's got a kind of wonderful, I don't really have time for this kind of vibe from her. It's just like, children, why are there children here?
It's like, I can't, this is beneath me. Oh, yeah, did you say he did steal a river fruit, or he didn't?
I said he couldn't even do it.
Oh, and yeah, when he did, he wound up killing a guy.
That's
true. How bad, he didn't even get the river fruit, and somebody wound up dead.
That's about as south as it can go.
I mean, that's the point, actually. Has any other companion accidentally killed someone in their first appearance? Like an innocent person? Is Adric the only I'm just trying to think about this.
I know there was one companion's first appearance that they didn't accidentally kill someone, but one of the other companions killed her pet.
Oh yeah, Vicky.
Warrior woman Barbara mowing down Sandy, the sand beast.
Barbara Wright, pet murderer.
But seriously, I can't think of any. I guess maybe Sarah Kingdom, but if you count her as a companion, but generally it's not. Generally, you know, a companion's first story, the whole idea is like, let's get them on the audience on their side. We'll make them present relatable and stuff. And here's like, Adric is responsible for this man's death. He gets pooed under the swamp, probably suffocates in the mud because of this child. Your new companion! Adventures anywhere in time and space.
You know, for kids.
It's a family show.
K9 is following the creatures. He gets distracted. He gets to one point where he can't follow them anymore because there's water there, and he's like, "Ah, shucks." But K9 has like the greatest musical theme.
Oh, it's brilliant!
I love it so much. It's like we're having an adventure, and it'll like abruptly cut whenever it goes to another scene.
I mean, it's not quite as brilliant as the theme to K9 and Company, but you know, it is the second best bit of K9 related music to exist.
It feels like they're straight up playing it as a joke too. Like, look at this amazing dog, and all he's doing is just rolling across some grass.
There's just a guy out shot with a bit of string pulling him along, full synth band playing in the background.
It's wonderful. I love it so much. But then after the whole like kerfluffle in the TARDIS with the Outlers and Romana, the TARDIS starts tipping back and forth, and the actors throw themselves from one side to the other.
Always fun to watch.
Yeah, some classic throwing pretend everything is shaking acting going on there. I think everyone generally goes in the right direction, so it's okay.
They really chuck themselves pretty good too. What we find out is that it's the Marshmen have picked up the TARDIS and carried it away.
I wish we could have seen that. I wish they'd had a shot of it. I don't know. I just think it would crack me up to see them lifting it. But it turns out like the TARDIS is incredibly heavy because, I mean, my maths, I'm not Adric good at maths, but it's obviously quite clear from what Romana says that it's incredibly heavy. I mean, I don't know how that crane in that helicopter in Day of the Doctor was carrying it, because apparently it weighs like several tons at least.
It's not the first time the TARDIS has been moved either. It was moved in Marco Polo as well.
Marco Polo, and they didn't even have any technology. It was like cart and a horse.
I think the TARDIS is as heavy as the plot demands.
Basically, yeah.
Meanwhile, the Doctor has tried to find the TARDIS, but can't find it because it's gone. And he does a whole like miming bit around it where he's like touching where it should have been, but it's not there, and he sticks his arm through it like maybe it was invisible, but it's not. It's just gone. He's being followed by one of the Marshmen, which is actually a Marsh child. He actually tries to talk to it at one point, and it like runs off like scared. And he's like, I usually have such a good way with children.
I don't know if you know this, but in an earlier draft of this one, the Marsh child might essentially become the companion. The idea was that this Marsh child would kind of evolve into a human, and that might actually have been the companion.
What?
I like that idea.
Yeah, it never, obviously it didn't happen, but Andrew Smith writes, what's it called? Mistfall. It's a Big Finish with Pete Davidson, which is kind of a sequel to this, and it's kind of, I mean, that's not what's happened, but he kind of goes back to that and kind of explores that idea a little bit.
See the evolution of the Marshmen sort of thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he goes into quite a bit of detail. Can't remember most of it now, but he goes into the details.
So the Doctor, since he can't find the TARDIS, he wanders around and he finds the Starliner, sonics his way in, sees a melon, and just randomly decides to stab it with a knife, because why not?
It's no fact he hates melon. Tom Baker particularly hated melon and was like, every time someone was like, I'd like to stab it. And they go, Tom, you can't. I'd really like. I don't know why I'm doing Roger Moore voice for Tom Baker. But it's like, I really want to stab a melon. And so eventually they're like, look, this is last year. Let him stab a melon. True fact.
It doesn't stay in the melon for long though, because the marsh child takes it, and I think you're supposed to be like, oh no, it has a weapon. Okay, so the TARDIS has stopped moving. The scanner still shows Gallifrey, and they're like, we'll have to figure out some way to fix the scanner to see what's outside. And Adric's like, or you could just open the door. And Romana gives him a look like, why are you on this show?
Why are you here?
I'm a classically trained actress. Who the hell are you?
And then they look out and they see that they're surrounded by marshmen and they're in a cave. And they're like sort of nearish to the Starliner. Romana and Adric sort of like discuss it and decide that the marshmen are going to use the TARDIS as a battering ram to get into the Starliner. They're like gonna push it down a hill.
Yeah, I mean, like, they figured out where they are. They're at the top of this hill that goes straight into the Starliner where it is.
I feel it's worth pointing out that the TARDIS isn't the most aerodynamic shape, and I feel if they pushed out, it would just go on its side and lie there. Maybe they have to push it again and again, and eventually they just have to gently push it up against the Starliner. I don't think it's an amazing leap of logic they make for this, and I don't think they've really got as much to worry about as they act like they do, to be honest, but, you know.
Yeah, they said they probably think it's just a giant rock and not... It's square. It's like too perfect to be a giant rock.
And I mean, Romana's got a line later about, they're showing intelligent behaviour. And you think, but are they? Really?
They were going to throw the TARDIS at a ship.
I mean, it's not as daft as some of, say, the Master's plans, but it's still not brilliant.
Meanwhile, inside the Starliner, people find the Marsh Child sneaking around, and they corner it, and the Doctor shows up and is like, hey, calm down. It's just a scared kid. He's like trying to calm down the Marsh Child and like reach out to it, and then one of the people bonks him over the head, and then they put the Marsh Child in a net and they carry it away, and the Doctor is still trying to be very compassionate, and it's really nice. He's trying to be nice to the Marsh Child, and they all sort of meet the Deciders, and they all introduce themselves in this very...
with the most dramatic lighting.
Yes.
And that little synthesizer kind of ding sound every time one of them stands up. I love it. It's like, I'm Decider Logan. Ding!
I'm Decider Nifrid. Ding!
Do they have somebody who's just like waiting there on that music cue? He's running music and lights back a house.
Yeah, just sort of shot that there's one house area and just with a little synth. All right. He's starting. Go. Got it. Good work.
What you don't see is the hours of preparation and practice and
the dress rehearsals.
It's a lot that goes into this being a Decider business.
And then I love the way Tom Baker goes, and I'm the Doctor, just undercutting all the pomp and circumstance with just a grin.
Oh, it's so good. I know, like around this time they were sort of trying to cut back on the humor and the comedy. But all the little moments that are still there make me very happy.
Yeah, I always think this about season 18. People go, there's no jokes in it. But I think, well, there aren't as many as there were when Douglas Adam was script editing it. But Douglas Adam isn't script editing it anymore, so there were never going to be as many jokes. But I feel like people tend to think, when they talk about season 18 in general, it's very much, they tend to talk about Logopolis, which is, for very obvious reasons, grimmer. But yeah, there's plenty, throughout, this, and actually throughout the whole East Space trilogy, there are jokes in every one, and Tom Baker can still do the tell on the charm, big eyes, big grin, isn't what you're doing, essentially ridiculous moments, which really underline who his Doctor is.
It's going to be a little sad at the end of this season.
Yeah, not that sad though.
No, I'm ready. I'm ready for.
We've been in this era for a long time.
It's true. I'm ready for a little bit of a change. I think we're already getting it a little bit stylistically this season. It's going to transition us into the next season.
One of my occasionally controversial Doctor Who opinions is that actually season 18 is probably my favourite Tom Baker season, which I don't think is a very popular opinion. I mean, I love like the Hinchcliffe stuff, and I like a lot of the Graham Williams stuff, but something about this era just speaks to me. Particularly from here to Logopolis, well, actually up to Castrovalva, I'd include it, to be honest, as well. It's one of my favourite runs of Doctor Who stories. I'd say up to Kinder, but Fall to Doomsday happens, and that's unfortunate.
So he has a chat with the Deciders and says that basically he's just like, why can't everybody be nice? Stop fighting each other. The mist isn't toxic. What is all your problems? And then Logan's like, wait, what? I thought the mist was toxic. And he's like suddenly like got hope that his daughter's okay. And then the rest of the deciders just are like, yeah, okay, we lied about that, but it's for the good of the community.
There's like certain knowledge that like the top decider only has.
The system files.
There's folders and files throughout the whole set.
Yeah, it's part of the set design. It's really great. Like the big ridiculous desk that they all sit at is just like a big file folding, like a big file cabinet with all these binders in it, but all the binders are different colors and stuff.
Really cool set design. And then there's one of the people, his name is Dexter. He's going to examine the Marsh child and try to figure out what's going on with him, and the doctor offers to help him examine the Marsh child. Meanwhile, back at the TARDIS, K9 shows up and immediately gets his head knocked off by one of the Marshmen.
My poor dog! My poor sweet dog!
But it's also worth pointing out how Romana's like, nah, he can be fixed. She's like, oh well. And then she even goes, oh yeah, we have to fix him all the time.
It's sort of his deal. But Toni was very upset when it happened. She was like, whoa!
I mean, people have been demanding to kick K9, and now they've taken his head off.
He's getting a lot of abuse.
So much.
Dog abuse.
I feel there's an intended plot where the Marshmen then throw K9's body at the Starliner to see if that will smash through it.
If they just took his head and squeezed it, then his little tongue gun would pop out and shoot the Starliner, right?
No.
I think that's how it works.
Squeeze his head.
Yeah, it's a squeeze system. Toni looks so upset right now. You can't see it, but she is very sad.
Don't hurt my dog!
But they're going to take off in the TARDIS, but the Marshmen are leaving, so they're like, why are they leaving? And they go out, and they see that they've been scared away by the melon spiders. The eggs inside of the melons have hatched, and now there's little puppet spiders. And all the Outlers are like, ah, and run away and get into the TARDIS. And Romana's like, what the? It's just spiders. Calm down.
And then the spiders get all over her and knock her out.
There's a long history in the BBC trying to do insects in Doctor Who, and I don't know if they've ever really been that successful. I mean, would you count these spiders as better or worse or kind of equal to Planet of the Spiders? I mean, I guess they can move a bit more. They're a bit more intrinsic as puppets go, but those kind of big glowy eyes just kind of crack me up every time because they just, yeah.
I think they're definitely better than Planet of the Spiders. Not as good as Planet of the Giants. The ants.
Yeah. Or what about the Zarbi and the Menoptera?
Nothing's as good as a Zarbi.
Nothing's gonna be as good as the Menoptera.
Before she gets attacked by the spiders, all the Outlers run into the TARDIS, and she's like heading back to the TARDIS. They've shut the door, and Adric's like, why'd you shut the door? She's still out there. And he's like, presses a button to try to open the doors back open. They just TARDIS away. And Adric's like, I think I pulled the wrong lever. So the TARDIS has just disappeared. And then, a spider jumps on Romana's face and she passes out. And that is the end of episode 2. We are now into episode 3, which I have called Deciders and the Spiders.
The Spiders.
Deciders and the Spiders. Logan is going to help the Doctor find the TARDIS if he will help him find his daughter. And then the TARDIS just appears right next to the Doctor. And then Logan's daughter walks right out of the TARDIS. So, hey.
Great. Glad we had that whole scene.
Yeah. Everything just came right to him. Perfect. There's a bit of a comedy bit, which no one on the commentary liked, but I thought was funny. Where he's like, they're like, what is it? And he's like, it's Romana. And then the door opens and it's his daughter. And he's like, Roma. And then like, he keeps saying Roma. And then like a different Outler will come out. None of them are Romana. Adric says that they pressed a button and they did a jump over here. And then they're like, well, we'll try to go back. And the Doctor says, short trips rarely work. Here's hopping. I
love that. I don't think that people ever pick up on that nearly enough, but, you know.
It's a great joke.
I think I flipped off the TV.
The appropriate response to a good joke. And then there's another comedy bit where he says, cross your fingers. And then Adric does not know how to do that properly.
Does not know what that means.
And the Doctor has to teach him how to cross his fingers properly. And then the short trip works. They go back to the cave. They find Romana. And they're like, are you okay? And she's like, yes, but who are you?
She's obviously quite stoned, to be honest.
She was having a very rough time on the set. So she's like, everything's gone bad and weird. I'm just not going to be in it anymore. Just show up. TARDIS goes back to the Starliner. Dexter is going to cut into the Marsh child's brain while it's awake?
Yeah, because he's kind of a dick.
Dexter gives no fucks, essentially. He's like, science! It's about science! I am science! I am science! Basically. Must be a wow at parties.
Also, you have to do brain surgery when people are awake, I think.
Really?
I think they do some, but I know if I had the option, I'd rather be asleep.
I don't know. Sometimes, like, there are certain things you have to be awake for. I mean, like, you're numbed, obviously, but like, if they fuck up, they need to know.
Right.
And like, the best way to do that is have you like awake.
So they can say, "Do you still remember who you are? Do you remember your birthday? Good. Oops.
Good. All right. This is fine then.
If you just start spouting nonsense, they're like, "Oh, stop poking that thing."
Yeah, I got get out of there.
Put it back in. Oh God.
That Buckaroo Banzai quote, don't tug on that. You never know what it might be connected to. But the doctor sees this. He's like in the room with the deciders, and it's like a video. They're like watching it on video, like, "Oh, cool, let's watch this guy cut this brain open." And the doctor's like yelling at him to stop, but he starts to cut. The Marsh child starts screaming, because duh, you just stabbed a knife into its head. And then it cuts to Romana, who is also screaming, and she has these cool CSO sideburns.
Little like blue fissures.
Yeah, she's been to a local festival. She's got a face painter, and she's just like, "I just want something." And they're like, "Yeah, I know." And that's what it always makes me think of.
But they remind me of that effect in, what was it, The Green Death, where they got that green glowing thing, because they
do glow a little bit.
Yeah, so it's definitely like CSO that they've like put a little effect on.
I think I remember hearing they wanted them to do that more, because they don't do it very often. They're supposed to constantly be moving, but they just couldn't quite get the effect right.
It looks good when it works, though. And then the Marsh child breaks free from Dexter's grasp, kills Dexter, and destroys the lab. He sees the doctor on the screen and sort of goes out to touch him or whatever, and the doctor's like, don't do it, and then he smashes the screen and it like blows up and the Marsh child dies.
It's so sad. It's like, Tony, it's like how you felt for Canine and I felt for the Marsh child, because it's just so, because he touches the screen trying to get to the doctor, any person hasn't been a git to him, and he dies, and it's like, oh.
Oh, yeah, it's heartbreaking.
It's legitimately disturbing and sad.
And also gives Tom Baker the opportunity to be righteously angry, which he's very good at.
He is so good in that scene. He is. It's one of my favorite Tom Baker scenes, actually, because he's so like, I have had enough of you people shit. And it's just like, it's an amazing bit of acting from him.
Yeah, he starts stomping around and yelling and saying they're running around in circles, and he takes some of those books and like throws them off the shelf, and he's showing that here's the thing to take off. Why haven't you taken off?
There's a small scene earlier where they're just like replacing a fuse, and he's like, it's a brand new part. Like, there's nothing wrong with that part. You guys have been replacing perfectly functional equipment over and over and over again.
The willful procrastination of endless procedure.
But then it's got that great, I mean, given that Douglas Adams had left, and in some ways the production team very much trying to move on from being Douglas Adams-esque, or at least that's what they said. But that whole idea of they're like, oh yeah, we can take this thing apart and put it back together, but it doesn't mention how to actually fly it. That always feels very Douglas Adams to me. That kind of, yeah, we could, but we don't know how.
We have the manual, but we don't have a driver instructor. Understand how the car works.
It is pretty funny. So the doctor studies the spider and recognizes something. He's starting to piece together that all three of these, the Marshmen, the spiders, and the people, are all the same. They all have the same DNA. Because it's all full circle.
They're all evolved from each other, and that's how evolution works, 100%.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Spider to swamp creature to me.
To Adric.
To math geniuses. So, but he's studying all this stuff, and he gets interrupted by Adric, who tells him that Romana has left her room. And they go and check out her room, and her room is trashed. And then the doctor says, Marshman? In my TARDIS?
It's more likely than you think.
I could not help but think of that meme. So they start following, because she's left clothes laying around and stuff, and they start following it to try to figure out where she's went. And she is currently opening the door to the Starliner to let in the Marshmen. Dun dun dun.
Oh no.
That is the end of episode 3. And we're now into episode 4, The Lastin, which I have called The Procrastinators.
Is that like an even longer version of the Dominators?
It was what they were called before they decided to be called the Dominators. It took them a while to figure it out, though.
Okay.
It's a procrastination joke.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
There's a really creepy shot where the Marshmen are coming in and like Romana like does this like hand gesture. They like touch hands and rub hands. It's very creepy. And they all come in. I don't entirely okay, so she got bit by the spider, which makes her connect
psychically connected to.
Is it psychically? Because I think like there's like some DNA shit involved.
The doctor mentioned something about animal protein or alien protein in her brain. And I think it's maybe the idea is that, somehow she's become part of because the whole planet's quite interconnected. You get the impression there's a very set way of how things happen. She kind of gets almost absorbed into that, I think, by the spider bite.
Sure.
Yeah.
Makes sense. This all sciences correctly.
Yes. Absolutely.
It's how evolution works on this planet too, right?
Yes, the science of this 100% checks out.
Christopher H. Bidmead was very keen on his science, apparently, allegedly. He was very much like, so everything is absolutely exact. I once actually had Christopher H. Bidmead, and you always have to put the H in there, tell me what telebiogenesis meant on Twitter, because I questioned it. I called it techno-babbling. He's like, no, weren't you taught basic Latin? I was like, not at the state school I went to.
Apparently, he wanted his full name in the credits, but it was too long. He wanted, like, whatever the H stood for. I don't remember.
If only he'd been writing during the age of widescreen. Now they could put that all up, no problem.
But at the time, they're like, no, there's not enough room.
The budget can't afford your middle name, Chris. It's just got to go. I'll give you an H.
Fine, I'll take the H. The Outlers, that they've been, we've kind of bypassed this. The Deciders said they're not going to punish them, but they would have to work on the ship. So they've been sort of going around tinkering.
It takes all of them. They're like a group of like 6 of them are all replacing like one light bulb.
How many Outlers does it take to change a light bulb? 6.
1 to do it, 5 to look bored as hell. Oh no, to be fair, one of them does the little open thing, and somebody else picks it in, and the rest just going, all right. But I do like how bored they look. Like, it's like their idea of hell, they come back onto the station, and they'll be told, you're not going to be punished, but we are going to make you change light bulbs for the rest of your life.
It does sound awful. But they see the Marshmen coming in, and to distract them, they throw a bunch of stuff on the floor that they all sort of like, oh, cool, what's this? And the Marshmen bend over to pick it up. They all get away except for one guy who gets grabbed, and then one of the Outlers comes and saves him, but then gets grabbed in the process. His name is Tylos.
I was just trying to remember his name. I just kept thinking of him as, of all the useless gang, probably the most useless one, but,
There was originally supposed to be like a love triangle between Tylos, Varsh, who is Adric's brother and the leader of the gang, between those two and the one female Outler. Yeah,
I can't be bothered with that shit.
Yeah.
I'm glad it wasn't in there.
I don't think we lost a lot by having it be cut.
No, I don't think so either. Apparently, the Varsh and the daughter did wind up getting married in real life, I think. So,
really?
Yeah. Huh. They met on this episode and they got married.
Didn't the guy playing Varsh, didn't he marry Kate O'Mara? The Rani?
Somebody married somebody. I read it on Wikipedia.
Man, thanks for that highly dubious bit of trivia.
Joe, fact?
No, I'm pretty certain he married Kate O'Mara. I'm pretty certain at some point.
Quick edit. This is Joe from the future, just chiming in to say that Richard Willis, who played Varsh, married both June Page, who played Kiara, and Kate O'Mara. We were both right. Who knew? Anyway, back to the episode. I do want to say the guy that plays Tylos, who just got grabbed here and murdered a bit, I think he became friends with Adric. But his name is Bernard Padden, which makes me think of our...
Oh yeah, every time we saw the credits, we were like, Ben Padden! Ben Padden's in this one.
Yeah, who's one of our previous guests. But he was very sad that he didn't really get any scenes with Tom Baker.
Aww.
Because he's in a couple scenes, but he doesn't have any dialogue with him or anything.
Yeah, Tom Baker would have probably just ignored him, though, to be honest, at this stage,
I think the only interaction he had was the doctor yells, "Romont!" in his face when he comes out of the TARDIS. And then the doctor says Tylos and touches him once he's dead. And that's about it.
Well, I guess it's better than some interactions people got with Tom Baker, but...
What was the bit of trivia you told us last time you were on? What was the thing he said?
Oh, Tom's putting it in now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah, I've forgotten I'd introduced you to that. Yes, well, maybe originally when he leaned down to touch him, he was just going, "Doctor's putting it in now." I don't know, it's... Probably not, though. God, I'd forgotten. I'd wiped my mind of that one.
I hadn't. Thanks.
It will haunt you. It will haunt you for the rest of your life.
So the doctor and Adric are sort of wandering around, and Adric tells the doctor about the full circle comment, and the doctor's also very surprised at Adric's fast knee healing. And there's a very comical shot where there's just a close-up of Adric's knee as he pulls it up to show the doctor, and the doctor just ducks into shot really close to his knee to look at it, and then pops right back up. It was some of the most comedic framing I've seen. I made a gif of it just because it's so ridiculous looking.
And Adric gets a line about some old people, it takes ages, almost a whole day. And now, nearing 40, I'm like, fuck you. I get a code now. The cough lasts for 2 weeks afterwards.
Don't remember the context for my next note, but the doctor at one point says he is not a man to side with chaos, which I feel is bullshit.
Yeah, that's absolutely not true.
The doctor causes more chaos than anyone on the show. But yeah, then he finds Tylos dead, and then a marshman comes up behind him with K9. He's holding K9's head, and the doctor gets it away from him, and then just gets real weird with it.
This whole scene is fantastic, though.
He's holding K9's head up in front of his face to scare them backwards or something. Not in the script. 100% Tom Baker.
Really?
Yeah, the guy who wrote it was like, I hated it.
Yeah, because he kind of just uses it as a mask that holds it up to his face and stuff, and it's yeah. I quite like it, actually. It's suitably weird.
And I think that's he thinks he's scaring them backwards, but really it's just Romana has showed up, and I think they're backing away from her.
That's scaring them?
I'm not sure. But Romana tries to attack the doctor. She does some claws. It's
she is very much clawing and hissing like a cat.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. You got spider bites make you act like cats, and then the spiders turn into the swamp guys, and the swamp guys turn into humans. It's all the great circle. It's the full circle of life.
Oh.
The cat sounds a little bit out of nowhere. The hissing. I mean, did you watch Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
I have not seen it. I know of it.
No, okay. There's a character there that later on decides she's going to become a cat, and I'm sure anyone who listens to this podcast who watches it will know who I mean. But it just makes you think of that. Oh, now it makes you think of the Cats trailer as well.
And I don't fully understand this, but the doctor talks to Romana and is like, remember who you are, sort of thing. And he says, the TARDIS. He's like, K9 and the TARDIS, and somehow gets her to stay at the TARDIS. She's touching it. And
well, she's a cat now, and it's pretty good scratching post, so...
What you don't see is, as the camera cuts away, she starts licking her arm and rubbing it against her head.
And then knocking everybody's glasses off tables.
Yeah, we're talking about you. She's asleep. She doesn't care. She literally cares about nothing in the world. She
literally broke one of our glasses yesterday.
Oh, I'm sure she did it with love.
It had Spider-Man on it.
Oh, but maybe there's a scene also where, thinking of My Sister's Cats, where Tom Baker looks around and sees Romana's climbed up to the top of the curtain and is like, come down.
Oh man, our cat used to do that. We had one of those things you hang on the back of your closet door that you can put shoes in, and she would just climb up that and get on top of the door, but had no idea how to get back down. None.
And she would do it in the middle of the night and just wake you up meowing. Hello, I've gotten myself stuck. It's 2 a.m.
They're wonderful creatures. Allegedly.
They're the mid-evolutionary point between spiders and swamp dudes. Adric has also swapped out the image thing from the TARDIS with one that works.
And the doctor gets onto him for stealing.
Yeah, this whole show is predicated on the fact that the doctor stole something and ran away with it.
To be fair, when Adric goes, he says something to Adric, and Adric goes, yeah, sometimes it's alright. You just kind of go, yeah.
Yeah, I guess sometimes.
Then we sort of go into hyperdrive with the deciders as comedically inept, where they're basically trying to decide what to do and decide to do nothing until they can figure out what to do. While they're in the middle of all this discussion, the Marshmen break in and trash the whole place and attack the head decider. And they chase everybody out.
Head decider played by James Bree, who I'm right in thinking he was the security chief in the War Games.
Oh, possibly, yeah.
I think so, just because he has one of my favourite line deliveries in that of any Doctor Who, where he goes, "The secret of time travel," which I love the way he says that. it's not really not relevant to the story. I just love the way it's time travel in the war games.
He gets a fairly decent death scene. Basically, he's dying in the arms of one of the other deciders and says that they have to have get the doctor to pilot them away, but not to return to Pterodon, which is the planet that they say they were from. But they cannot return to Pterodon because they've never been there. And then he dies. Every time they said Pterodon, I just was like, I thought of like the dinosaurs.
It does sound like a Godzilla monster. Like Godzilla vs. Pterodon is absolutely a film I've seen at some point.
I have co-wrote a book about pterodons. Well, it's Princess and the Pterodactyls is what it's called. Now available on Amazon.com.
Thanks. It's not time for plugs yet.
Oh yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I'll save it for the end. So the deciders are like, what do we do? And Logan is like, well, he said, let's go look for the doctor. So they go look for the doctor. The doctor, meanwhile, is making a thing that should cure Romana, but he gets somewhat interrupted by Marshmen bursting into the lab. He tricks the Marshmen into grabbing these containers and then turning them on, and they basically spray themselves with oxygen.
Well, the whole idea is that they come out of, like, the water. They have gills and they're fish people, but they can, like, walk around when it's mistfall because it's mist. There's enough not water in the air. There's enough water. But if you, like, turn up a whole bunch of oxygen, then it becomes too oxygen rich and they can't,
do it.
Breathe it.
Because they've not adapted to it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a shame he doesn't use helium, because then the entire rest of the episode everyone would be speaking in very squeaky voices.
I'd like to see that happen on Doctor Who. That would be fun. Maybe in one about robots.
Yeah, yes.
Call it the Death Robots. But while the Outlers and Adric sort of spray them out into the hallway, and then Romana sneaks in and tries to attack again, and Adric sprays her, and she goes down. The doctor proceeds to cure Romana. He says something. He's like looking at it like a sample, and he says something, and then Romana replies from the like table she's laying on, and then he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "What?" And he looks up, and then Romana smiles real big because she's fine now. But the way that shot is lit is so terrifying.
It's weird. It's like all the lights focused on her mouth, and I can't quite work out what they're going for. But yes, we know she has teeth.
Yeah, it's like when you show like a villain in like in a vampire movie, and it's just the lights on their eyes and nothing else. It's like that. It's so creepy.
I think I know the kind of shot they're going for, but it's just like it's like the light slipped just as they shouted action. They're like, we don't have time. Union rules. It's fine. No one will notice.
We also get some more exposition about that the deciders have been procrastinating basically for 40,000 years. They've been in this loop of not doing anything for 40,000 years. I believe we also eventually learned that they're not even the people that crashed on the ship. The ship crashed, and then their ancestors basically killed them off, and they're just descendants of the people from this planet. So the ship really has nothing to do with them. But meanwhile, Adric and Varsh are ushering out the Marshmen, but Adric's oxygen is running low, so he runs off, and then while Varsh keeps the Marshmen back, but then the Marshmen get the better of him. They drag him into a room as the door's shutting, and they kill Varsh. They kill Adric's brother.
Sad.
Adric is there with his dead brother, and he's sad, and the one of the Outlers gives him the badge, the belt, and says, "This is yours now." So he finally got that Outler belt.
But at what cost?
Don't take it off for at least the next 8 stories. Okay.
And I was like, oh man, that's actually sad. There's like 2 legitimately sad scenes in this serial.
Yeah, it is. I know it is, and even the way his brother screams his name just before he dies, it's quite chilling.
Yeah, because it's also like the door's closing and like Adric's reaching out for him, and like their hands are almost touching, and then he gets dragged through. It's very sad. And then the doctor's like, "Hey, Logan, can you just turn the oxygen way up?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, sure." And then they do that. If we had said this 5 minutes earlier, Adric would still have a brother.
Oh, whoopsie. Then again, if Adric hadn't stolen a melon, Simon Drake would still be alive. So, karma.
Everybody is culpable. Then they get the Marshmen to leave, and then the doctor says, "Oh, hey, those guys are your ancestors." And then Adric hides in the TARDIS and puts that, he swaps out the image thing again. Because, they returned it because they needed it for science, and now he's stolen it again, and he's put it in the TARDIS. The deciders tell the doctor that they want him to pilot them somewhere else, and then the doctor and Romana are like, Nah, we ain't got time for that. We'll tell you how to do it, though. And they basically just say, put it in drive, press this button, and you're good. And then they leave.
Anything goes wrong, Control-Alt-Delete, restart. Do you know what the original plan for the ending of this was? The idea was that it was actually going to end with the Starliner crashing again on another planet to indicate the whole thing was going to start again.
Ah.
Which would have possibly been a bit Twilight Zone-y, twist the last minute kind of thing.
A little bit, but I like that idea. It fits in with the title.
Yeah, I think that was the plan.
Then the Doctor puts in the new image thing, and then confirms that they're not in real space, and they're going to have to find a CVE, a charged vacuum appointment, in order to escape.
Not a CV or curriculum vitae, which lists all the jobs you've ever done and why you should be given a job. Very different.
But that's it. That's the end of Full Circle. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with final thoughts.
On the last episode of the Nerdy Laser podcast, Richard and Isaac found themselves in a highly secured government facility.
Richard, what are we gonna do?
Isaac, the only thing we can do.
You don't mean...
Yes, talk about movies, pop culture, and the nerdy stuff we love.
Right on!
The Nerdy Laser podcast is available on Podbean, Apple Podcast, and the ESO Network.
Welcome back! Tony, do you know what time it is?
It is, let me see, 2:26 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, but do you know what time it is for Adam?
No.
It is 7:27 p.m.
See, you're keeping this man up.
It's all right. I am past 18. I can stay up past 7:30. I can even stay up past 9 o'clock if I'm really well behaved.
Have you been?
Yes.
Doesn't sound too confident.
Well, I haven't stolen any river fruit and caused any deaths, so you know.
Doing better than some people.
Yeah, it's a pretty wide scale, so.
So, Tony.
Yeah, it's Sunday.
Uh-huh. What do we do at this point in the podcast?
We say, thanks for listening. We did an episode of a podcast. Goodbye. And then I go back to bed. Actually, I think I'm going to get a snack. I don't know what we got. I think, you know what? I might make some popcorn.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a segment of the podcast we do before we say goodbye.
Is it the segment of the podcast where I make popcorn and people listen to me eat it?
That has never been a segment of the podcast.
But think about it, though. I think we should add it.
That's a Patreon exclusive.
All right. Would you like to do final thoughts?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Final thoughts.
I think this is a fantastic story. I think Adric's hair is terrible, and I think it has a very important moral. How if you steal melons, you'll eventually end up splattered across prehistoric Earth. Spoilers for a later story there.
Nice. Tony, do you have any final thoughts?
No. It was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a new companion. I think I've told my story about Adric before, which is
you can tell it again because I don't remember it.
the way that I went when I first was like, I'd been watching New Who for a while, and I was like, I should, get to know some about classic Doctor Who, and I think I was reading the 10 Doctors at the time, and that was like part of why I wanted to know like what they were like. And like this was in like the days of like you could find classic Doctor Who randomly on Daily Motion, like you couldn't go and like find a whole season necessarily. And so I went back and watched all the regenerations because, like, those were the episodes that I was like, well, they're sure to have them. And I ended up watching, like, 5 as much of the way through as I could. And one of the first episodes I ever saw with Adric was the one where he dies. And I was like, that was so sad. What? He must have been a really great companion. I bet he was great. I loved him. He seemed very sweet. And then I, like, found fandom stuff about Adric and was like, everyone hates him. Oh, no. I guess he was obnoxious. Like, I had just watched the episode where he died, and so I was, like, Googling him, and people were like, yeah, fuck that guy. And I was like, no, he just died. You can't say that. You can't call him annoying. So, like, that is my only real experience with this character. It'll be interesting to, like, actually be with him from the beginning, especially since I know what happens to him. And I still think it's sad. Maybe I'll get to it and be like, fucking finally. I don't know.
I don't think the Davison era does Adric a lot of favours, but I think he's pretty decent. Well, he's all right during the Tom Baker years.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with them at the moment. So.
I do know he's not a very popular companion.
I tend to not mind some characters that are like universally hated for being kids.
I mean, I've always really liked Scrappy Doo.
Yeah.
You don't like Scrappy Doo.
Yeah, I don't care for Scrappy Doo that much. I'm more thinking like Dawn and Buffy. I know Dawn
and Buffy's a great character.
I know.
I will fight people about that.
A lot of people don't like Dawn because she's whiny and a teenager, and I'm like, teenagers are whiny.
They're like that.
So it's fine. I understand it. So yeah, I don't have a problem with Adric so far. I wonder how much of it is just sort of like people not liking teenagers. I don't know.
We're about to find out.
We're about to find out, yeah. I think this wasn't a bad introduction to him. I thought he had like a really funny line with the, why don't you just open the doors? Like, he seems to be acting fine and doing a good job, so. And I like this serial a lot. I think it's cool that it was written by a 17-year-old. I think some of the science is maybe a little wobbly, but the story itself is fun and interesting.
Yeah.
And there's some really cool shots. There's some really good visual stuff in this one. So all in all, I thought it was pretty good. And there were some really good dramatic moments as well that like emotionally connected and worked.
Absolutely, yeah.
Before we go, is there anything that you would like to plug?
Yes, I would. I plugged it earlier, but I'm more than willing to plug it again. I will plug my 2 podcasts. There's Harry Sullivan is an Imbecile, which you can find on iTunes, or you can follow us on Twitter at ImbecilePod. I do that with the lovely Brian Snape, and we basically, each episode, we take a different topic about Doctor Who and we knock it back and forth. And my other one is The Real McCoy, which is myself and Eric Stadnick. We're doing a deep dive into the Sylvester McCoy era, so we're currently looking at the TV stories, and we'll move on to some of the new adventures and some of the Big Finish stories later on. And you can find that on iTunes as well, and you can follow it on Twitter at real_pod.
Awesome. Very cool. I want to do a quick plug because I think we have a few days left by the time this goes up. We have plenty of days left when we're recording it. We have a few days left on our Kickstarter for me and Ray Friesen and Chris Cherry co-wrote a book called Road Trippy under the name J. Bartholomew Hivemind.
It's pronounced Hivement.
Yes, that is correct. But we got funded in less than 2 days. And now we're trying to get stretch goals. We may have hit them already. I don't know. This is the future. But we have stretch goals to get an audio book and add some extra content.
But right now, we have the last couple of days to donate. It's already funded, so if you give to it, then you're guaranteed to get a really good book.
I think you can just go to jbhivemind.com, and then there'll be a link take you right to the Kickstarter. But yeah, I'm so surprised at how fast it got funded. Thank you guys so much if you are one of the people who donated for it. So if you could, it's the last few days if you haven't donated, so donate, pre-order your book, and share it with all your friends, all of your enemies. Tell everybody. Post it on your Facebook, your Twitter, your Instagram, your Snapchat. Because
we've already exhausted being able to post about it in all of those places.
Yeah. Do you have anything you want to plug?
Watch on Unseen World. We've been shooting the 2nd season. It's been going really well so far. I've just gone to some really amazing places. I literally just got back from a trip where we did Passaquan and the Museum of Wonder and the Lunchbox Museum. I got back like yesterday night, which is why if you're a Patreon, I'm still in my pajamas. But yeah, just like we've been doing some truly amazing trips. I think our premiere date for season 2 is sometime in March or April. That's when I've got to get my act together when it comes to editing these places. So far, I've got about half a season in the can. So I just need to shoot another half. And then I can start editing them and they will launch. You can watch season 1 right now on the Roku on the Heartland Network. Yeah. That's it. That's the only thing I really have to talk about. Watch season 1 so that you can be all caught up when season 2 comes out. It doesn't work like that.
So there's not a narrative or anything.
It's not very continuity heavy. But you can see.
Oh man, the season 1 cliffhanger. Whew.
That'll really get you.
But if you like this episode of the podcast, you can check out more on Watch-A-Rassilon.com and be sure to rate and comment on our iTunes. It does iTunes magic.
The more people rate us on iTunes, the more iTunes decides we're worthy of being shown to people. And the more people listen to us, the more powerful I get as a human being.
And if you'd like to help us out even more, you can go to watcherassilon.com/support. And there you'll find a link to our Patreon page, which you can get to just by going to patreon.com/watchathon. And there you can donate a monthly amount to get all kinds of rewards like day early episodes, uncut video of the podcast records, live
You can
streams.
see me in my pajamas.
Live streams where we watch the episodes with you guys. We also wear pajamas in that, too.
That's true. I wear pajamas most of the time.
Bonus episodes, all kinds of neat stuff. Also on our support page is a link to our Amazon wish list where you can sponsor an episode of the podcast by purchasing the corresponding serial on DVD for us. We'll mention you on the podcast and put your name on our Friends of Rassilon page. Speaking of, special thanks again to real-life radio sea pirate Steve Conway.
Hey, thanks, Steve. That felt weird because Steve is my dad's name.
It's my dad's name, too. Well, his middle name. It's also my middle name.
It is your middle name.
Too many Steves. But you can check out their radio show on radio8.com. I also want to give a special shout out to Vincent E.L. for providing us with our theme song.
Thanks, Vince.
You can check out more of their music at vincentel.bandcamp.com. And tune in next time when we talk about State of Decay, holdover from the Hinchcliffe era.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And we will have special guest Nicole Mazza on to talk about that.
Fantastic.
Until next time, keep calm and wrestle on.
Goodbye, and I love you in a platonic parasocial way.
Bye.
Marshmen. And my TARDIS.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping through Amazon.com or the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.